Screaming. Great. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom of the great city of College Park. I want to welcome you to our city and the second largest convention center in the state. For those of you who might have been at the meeting last week, you know that I was sharing that with you, and we are so pleased to have you for this local options sales tax discussion this evening. But we are going to start with an invocation by Mayor Alan Holman from the great city of Hapeville.
Thank you very much. If you would please stand and join me in a spirit of prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for those cities represented here tonight, for the men and women that chose to come out tonight and participate in this discussion with us, as we as elected officials around the South Fulton region, Fulton County in general, fight for the rights of our taxpayers. We pray your hands upon us, that you'll grant us peace, that you'll grant us wisdom, and bring to this negotiation a spirit of reconciliation and fairness to all. Bless, again, all those represented here tonight. Be with those tonight who may be suffering, Lord, especially those who may be suffering loss. Strengthen and comfort them. We also say a special prayer for those in the path of hurricane, that they may be protected, that you'll wrap your arms around them and protect them from the damage and death and destruction that that hurricane is bringing. Strengthen us in all that we do this evening. For us in your name we pray. Amen.
I want to introduce our moderator this evening, Ms. Kipling Primus, who's going to introduce the folks on this panel and also give us a little bit of a rundown as to how this evening will go. Ms. Primus?
Welcome, everyone. I want to ask you to give yourselves a hand because you all are citizens participating in the civic process, and we don't get many people doing that. So can you all just give yourselves a hand for showing up, because sometimes that's all citizens have to do is show up to get change. So the way this is going to work is really pretty simple. All of the mayors and representatives will have a chance to share with you their thoughts in about 3 to 5 minutes. After they've done that, we're going to open the floor for questions and answers from everyone here. Anyone who has a question will be allowed to do so. So we're going to get started. And the first person is Robert Rocomte, who is the city mayor. Did I say that right? The city manager of Chattahoochee Hills.
Do I use the mic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Check 2. All right. Well, I hate to go first. Good evening, everybody, because then I'll probably say everything everybody else might say down the line. But thank you again for coming out for this local option sales tax meeting in Town Hall. This is great. It's a great turnout. We appreciate it. What we're trying to do as representatives of your cities is to let you know the importance, the significance of what would happen if the lost would end at the end of this year. You know, I just recently wrote an article for our newsletter that will go out this month. And again, I mean, it's not an article to be slanderous or go against the commissioners or anything like that against Fulton County, because look, we still work with the county on many, many different issues. In fact, they're working with us right now to help us get sewer to our area, which we vitally need. But, you know, if we were to lose lost, doing the math, to throw some numbers out there, we would have to raise our millage rate at least 3.3 mills to make up the difference. You know, our property taxes are about 53% of our budget. And we need those property taxes because the next largest source of revenue is our local option sales tax. That's the second largest source of revenue. And that helps offset the burden to the property tax payers in our city. So I put in there what if you had a $300,000 house, a $600,000 house, no matter what size house, there would be an increase in that millage rate. So it's really critical that we get the citizens to understand and reach out to their county commissioners, whether it's their district representative or just one in general, let them know that this is really important. And it's really about fairness. It's about what we provide in services to the cities. We do provide police. We provide fire. We provide all the other services, Parks and Rec, Public Works. And that also includes animal control, 911, and jail services, which, by the way, we contractually pay for. So, again, I don't want to take a lot of thunder down the line. We got a lot of people here to speak, and we want to hear from you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next person is Mario Avery, the mayor of Fairburn.
Good evening, everyone. I was just going to go down the impact to the city of Fairburn as it relates to, as you heard, city manager from Jack Hills mention, what the loss of basically in this case is both residential and commercial. Loss represents 22% of the city of Fairburn's revenues right now. We collect about $4.8 million in lost funds. Our current millage currently is 8.1. If the loss were to go away, we would have to raise our millage rate to 13.5. And to give a little closer, better example of the impact that is, a home worth $100,000, and this is in the city of Fairburn, would currently pays $382 in city taxes. With loss going away, that would increase to $600, which is about a $218 increase. Fairburn's median home income value is about around $350,000 to $400,000. So if you do the math, you can see that it would act, in this case, the lower income personnel would be adversely, negatively impacted substantially. And so again, everyone would be impacted. The decision that the cities, regardless of what mayors, and just so everyone is understand, several of us actually went through this 10 years ago, and what a lot of people don't understand, all 50 states, 159 counties in Georgia negotiate this. And so here's the decision finally that's left for mayors. There's 3 decisions when it comes to loss if we were to lose it. You would either have to raise taxes because you have to meet your budget, you'd either have to reduce the services so that, in this case, you can pay your bills, or you'd have to lay off workers so, again, you can pay your bills. Unfortunately, for long-term sustainability, the only option that most of the mayors are going to have, whether they don't want to say it publicly, they would have to raise the taxes because, in this case, we're talking about a 10-year impact that would happen. And so just so everyone be real clear about how important it is that the county, as the former city manager just mentioned, it, we're not here to create war between the county. This negotiation has to work, or in this case, all 15 mayors standing united right now in the county would be negatively impacted.
Thank you. Thank you. So next, can we hear from Sonia Fillingane, who is the city manager of Union City?
Good evening, everyone. All right. Thank you so much, first of all. Straight out the gate, I want to say that. Thank you so much. You could have been a lot of places today, but you chose to be here because you understand the criticality of loss. And so on behalf of all the members sitting here, I want to say thank you. I'm here today actually representing Mayor Vince Williams and our city council. Mayor is actually in D.C. advocating for Georgia cities right now. So this was very important to him. He wanted to make sure that we had representation. That's why I'm here. Loss is absolutely critical, and that's what you're going to hear. That's going to be the reoccurring theme that you hear from cities. It's our hope tonight that we can explain more about loss so that everyone can have a basis of understanding, and that we hope that when you leave, you too will understand the criticality and what it means for you as a resident of your respective cities. So for us in Union City, loss has tremendous impact on our budget. The loss of loss, the possibility of the loss of loss has tremendous impact. Right now, we're averaging around $7 million annually for loss. So imagine that just going away if this is not resolved by December 30th. We have a deadline of December 30th to establish resolve and to work in partnership with Fulton County to get this taken care of. $7 million, that's significant, right? Significant, right? So you multiply that times 10, which is the cycle, 10 years, $70 million. That's a lot. That's your fire. That's your police. That's your stormwater. That's the critical, those are the critical services that we provide with the support of loss. And not only that, it really is intended to relieve the burden to our taxpayers. You know, that's what it's about. For us, and I appreciate the other members sharing the impact. For us, it would be up 5 meals. That's the estimate that we have, an increase of 5 meals. So imagine what that means for communities. That's really why we're here tonight. I want to thank the negotiating team that's been working on behalf of our city. I definitely want to thank our hosts for having us here at GCIC. And I want to thank you all for listening as we make the case for cities in Fulton County and why loss is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, let's hear from Peyton Jameson from Milton Cities.
Well, thank you. I first off want to thank our gracious host from the South Fulton Mayors. I really appreciate it. There's one thing that's common. We have all 15 mayors that are all agreeing on the same thing. We all have different citizens with different wants and needs, and it is very vital that all of us stand together. And it shows a lot that we have our fellow North Fulton mayors sitting alongside our South Fulton mayors. So one thing is for certain. When you get your property tax bill, are coming out right now, you let me know where you would like to see your money spent. I think $1 goes a lot further in your cities based on what everyone else has said on what we pay for compared to what the county pays for. Right now, the county gets 5% of the loss share. I have yet to hear why they need $1 more. I'm hoping we can hear that, but as it stands right now, they currently get 5% of the share. And as far as the Milton taxpayers are concerned, their millage rate would almost have to double. And we have a cap millage rate. So our cap millage rate is 4.731. We're at about 4.46 now. And in order for it to double, we would have to have the state to allow us to change the charter in order to increase our millage rate. And that is a huge impact on our local citizens. So again, I just want to say thank you. One of my favorite things as being a brand new mayor of Milton is meeting my fellow counterparts. And thank you so much for hosting us.
Clark Bodie, Mayor of Palmetto.
First, let me thank everyone for being here this evening now with us. Local option sales tax. What does that really mean? When the law was passed years ago through the legislators, it was intended to be relief for property tax payers in our cities, county, all over. And it's worked. It's done what it was exactly supposed to do. And you've heard the numbers from the different cities on budgets on how much of that local option sales tax that's collected adds to their budget. And just imagine that that wasn't there. Not only next year, imagine it being gone, but imagine the last 20 years that it wasn't there. Now, Mayor Avery mentioned the negotiations in the past. This happens to be my third round of negotiations, and we've only done it 3 times. So it's a very different world. Just imagine back 20-something years ago. Where were you and what were you doing? What kind of taxes were you paying? What kind of service did you have? I guarantee you didn't have any type of service that you do today. I mean, it is an entirely different world out there. And when this thing started, the county's portion was 35%. Now, keep in mind, when we say the county's portion, they get theirs off the top. We get to divide whatever's left. But that's the way the law was created, and that's the reason we went by that. Now, traditionally in Fulton, the easiest, the most glowing way to figure it is on population. Well, at that time, you didn't have all the new cities. They weren't around. So we negotiated out the 35 off the top, and it worked for 10 years. And then we came back, well, we had all these new cities in North Fulton County, and guess what? The 35 was reduced down to 15, maybe 14.9. But they signed the agreement. They agreed with it. And it again went into effect for the 10 years. Well, halfway between that time, the last bit of unincorporated city of South Fulton came into being. Well, the legislators, in their wisdom, they looked at the population and everything, and they cut their 15 down to 5. It worked. And the county will actually tell you today that if this goes away, it's not going to affect them. And they're exactly right. They're true in what they're telling you. But the devastation that it means to all the municipalities is unheard of. That relief that the law gave to everyone in this room that pays taxes in Fulton County, in your city, it goes away. And you've heard numbers from various ones on how much they would have to go up on that millage rate just to fill that gap or to cut the services. Folks, this ain't time. It's not the right time in this world to cut services. And we've discussed, with the county about what this money is even used for with them. And it could be the library. It could be the senior center. Well, now, if I've got to sit down there and choose between us losing 2 police officers and a fireman, it may be affecting response or anything like that, as opposed to not getting to go to the library, but maybe 4 days instead of 5, or the senior center over there 3 days instead of 5. Wonder which one I would take. Which one could you really do without? I mean, we love, we love all the facilities that's furnished throughout the county, but if you have to make a decision, you have to make a decision. And obviously the population is just down to almost nothing with the county, and so all of a sudden now the rules are changing because the population went away. But all this population that they used to get credit for, where did they go? They went into all the cities. So does it make sense that you're going to punish us for having all the people that were in the unincorporated that the Fulton County government served to bring into the city so we can serve them with police, fire, all the stuff that we do, the streets and everything like that? It's just, and it gets down to being fair. What's fair? And that's the only thing we're asking for. We're not attempting to take anything away from the county. As a matter of fact, our last offer went up from where they were at. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it'll be very interesting to see what your county commissioners, my county commissioners, and everything chooses to do for you as a property owner, taxpayer in Fulton County. And just as a note, on the local option sales tax that's collected, that's that penny on that dollar, about 40% of that money, it's not y'all paying that. It's people that come to Fulton County for events like here at the convention center or downtown at the Ben's down there. So it does make a difference. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, if we don't get this thing straightened out, we're going to be one unhappy group of folks. Thank you.
And we'll go back north. John Bradbury, Johns Creek.
Well, I also want to thank all of you for being here. It's a big deal. I want to thank the mayors that have all been so committed. I'll tell you that you're very well represented by your mayors. I want to thank College Park, Mayor Motley Broom. Thank you for having us here, and thank you, Mayor Holiday Ingram, for your leadership in putting this together. And I also want to give credit where credit is due. I want to thank Fulton County, because who would have ever thought that they could have pulled off getting all of the cities united like they have? So, at first, I got to tell you, Mayor Jameson and I were new mayors, and I think that we both commented about the fact that when we got elected, they said, well, hey, you're going to be involved in these loss negotiations, and we're like, what is lost? But as time has gone on and I've researched the issue, it really is actually a fairly simple issue when you really boil it down to its basic parts. So think about it from the state perspective. They saw that across the state of Georgia, you've got municipalities, whether it be cities or counties, they're both local governments. They have got certain services and responsibilities that they have to provide to their citizens to provide an effective local government. Okay, so they set up laws. They said, we'll take 1 penny of every transaction, of every dollar, and we will dedicate that to offsetting their property taxes to help pay for these basic necessities that local governments have to provide. All right? So that's the foundation that we should start with. The state law says that there are 14 supplementary powers or responsibilities. Okay, and those are things that you would expect a city or any local government to provide. You know, police, fire, health services, different things like zoning or code enforcement, things that you're used to seeing every day. Now, like Mayor Brody pointed out, yes, the populations in Fulton County have voted with their feet. They've said, we don't think that we're getting the best bang for our buck through the county. So we want to be incorporated into a city. And so that has been a movement, that has been a trend. And so it has gone from 35% back, 10 years ago to today. They only serve an unincorporated area of less than 2 square miles, less than 900 people. Nothing has really changed, though, from the perspective that there are still the same services being provided by those local governments. It just that it shifted from the county to those new cities. All right, so there is no reason for the county that they can justify an increase in their percentage of lost. If they want an increase in their percentage, they need to come to us, they need to come to you with a concrete proposal that says, within these 14 powers that are allowed by the state law, that we can use lost proceeds to pay for, to offset property taxes. These are the increased expenses that we are incurring or that we expect to incur over the next 10 years. They have not done this. They have not provided a rationale to us, to you. Look, it's been referred to before. The county has had a nonchalant attitude, almost like a threat, that, hey, take it or leave it. We're calling the shots. It's only 2% of our budget. So if it disappears, as Chairman Pitts has said, maybe you should think about a post-lost world. Well, that's easy for him to say, but that's a very punitive thing to say to a city like Johns Creek, where 40% of our budget is made up of proceeds from lost. And now maybe that's our fault because we've been, relatively frugal. We've been pretty good stewards of the taxpayers' money as a city, and so we have reduced our property tax like the lost law intended, okay? But now we are fairly dependent on that to a degree that maybe is more than any other city. But so, I think that they've gotten a little big for their britches. I think that it was very telling at the last town hall we had, State Senator Albers got up and said, basically, if Fulton County will not solve this issue, then he is going to. And so he has already drafted legislation that he's prepared to drop in the session that opens up in January that says, hey, let's just do it simply like they do in Gwinnett and in Cobb. They do it basically by population. And so let's just make loss a function of unincorporated versus incorporated population. And if that happens, it's going to really shift even further the money towards the cities. And I don't know that I think that that's necessarily what has to happen, but I think that that sounds a whole lot more fair and equitable than the way the county's playing so far. So anyway, I really appreciate being here. And again, I would just, to all of the mayors and to every one of you, I would just demand from your county commissioners, give me an explanation, give me the rationale, show me the numbers that say exactly what you need the money for within those 14 supplementary powers as outlined in the law. Thank you.
And next, Mayor Mario Avery of Fairburn. Oh, you already went. I'm so sorry. Councilwoman Catherine Fuller Rowell from South Fulton.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Catherine Foster Rao, and I serve on City Council in the City of South Fulton, and I am one of the representatives involved with the loss negotiations with the qualified cities in Fulton County. As it relates to the city of South Fulton, the shared impact or importance of lost revenue on our city does not go unheeded. And each of the participating cities collectively share in the potential financial harm that would be caused by an inequitable distribution to the county. A total loss of revenue would occur if the cities and counties cannot reach an agreement on or before December 30th, 2022. Any percentage of lost revenue beyond 4.9% is extra revenue or tantamount to a windfall for the county. And more than likely, depending on each city's respective millage rates caps, will result in an unnecessary property tax increase on the citizens of South Fulton. To give you an example, other than the city of Atlanta, and based on the population of the city of South Fulton, the city's lost revenue percentage, according to the most recent census data, is 21.5%, Roswell 18.6%, Johns Creek 16.5%, and Alpharetta 3.1%. If loss was to go away completely, our city's finance department has currently budgeted approximately $21 million. The city's current millage rate cap is at 13.469. That is set by our city charter. In the absence of lost revenue, the city will have to increase its current millage cap from 13.4 to 18.1, which would require a home rule charter amendment and voter approval or a local act of the Georgia General Assembly. In conclusion, each mayor, elected official, or representative that is in attendance tonight or watching remotely have come before you this evening in solidarity, seeking the equitable distribution of the lost revenue between the city and Fulton County. But this cannot be accomplished without your assistance and insistence with your county elected official that lost revenue percentage should not be greater than 6.5%, which would account for the most recent hospital changes and issues that we've seen, as well as the issues with the jail. So the bottom line, we need to make sure that we're coming to the table in good faith to negotiate. Thank you.
And Jim Gilvin from Alpharetta.
Thank you. And it's tough following after all these smart people. And it's been a pleasure to get to know all of you. It has. I'll try not to be redundant. I'll save my thank yous for the end. Let me suffice it to say that it's great to see this many people engaging, because for a long time, Fulton County has counted on doing all of their negotiating in the dark, where you don't hear any of it. And so it's important for us as leaders in our communities to make sure you have the information you need and you can help make those decisions, and you can help reach out to those who represent you. Because one of the things that's the most frustrating in this whole, I'll call it a battle, because it really has been between Fulton County and the 15 cities, is other than the 800 whatever people that live off of Fulton Industrial Boulevard and 2 square miles, the Fulton County Commissioners represent all of us. The cities represent the same people that the commissioners do, and yet somehow they've been talking down to us, all of us, Mayor Dickens, as if somehow we're not capable of serving our residents, of not responsibly spending money to serve you. Although, quite frankly, the services we provide on a local basis are the ones that drew you into Fulton County. Nobody ever moved into Alpharetta and said, I did it because of the court system. By gosh, they do a great job. It's damn sure not because they run a jail well. They got a good library system and some good things, and they're important to the service of our county. But what brings people, what keeps people, what brings jobs into this community in Fulton County is not the county. They help support this. We all should be working as a team. But what Fulton County has been doing for the last few months is not working together to help our residents. What they're doing is proposing something. And look, we all know Fulton County is a big, long county, very diverse, economically, geographically, everything you can think of. The one thing that is common amongst all of us in this room is if you live in Fulton County and Fulton County gets what they want, we're all going to get screwed. Every one of you. Congratulations. We're all in the same boat. So I'll just point out a couple of things because I have heard my representative on the commission dispute some of the things and trying to justify why they are literally trying to take money from you who live in cities and transfer that money to the county without any explanation of what they intend to do with it. We've got needs. Well, no, duh. Who doesn't have needs? Whose police force isn't demanding good raises, or you can't hire them and you can't keep them? I mean, everything's going up. 9% inflation. I get they've got needs. We do too. And the fact is that we've been working under this past agreement to serve you as well as we possibly can. And what they're doing is saying, well, we're going to take it. Either we'll get our 15 or our 35%, or we'll just write it off, which hurts all of us once again. If they let it lapse in December, that's $300 million gone for next year. And that's not just for Alpharetta, not just for the city of Atlanta or South Fulton. That's everybody in the county is going to suffer $300 million worth of lost revenue and services if they do that. And it'll be over $3 billion over the next 10 years. And yet they casually toss it out as, you better start getting ready for life after loss. Better start getting ready for $3 billion worth of revenue paid by people from outside Fulton County, people that fly in for conventions in this facility, people that drive in for a ball game or something like that. So they could just casually toss that around. They shouldn't, because we should all be working for the betterment of the county. If they think they have a proposal that they're going to use that money better than the cities, then by God, why aren't they out there banging that drum? And I know why they're not, because they don't have that plan. But I'll tell you what I have heard recently is that the cities aren't doing enough to give tax relief to our residents. So they point to a few months ago in August when they passed their budget. They passed what they considered a tax decrease because they rolled back their millage rate a little bit. That's great. I love getting tax cuts. At the same time, they're sitting around the table with us saying, we don't have enough money to do the jail and we don't have enough money for grading. It's like, then what the hell are you reducing your millage rate for and coming to us asking us to pay it? It's a con game. And that's what it is. They're putting money under a shell saying, oh, we're giving this back to the taxpayers, and we'll do a great job of giving it back to the taxpayers, but we're taking it from the people in the cities. I've said enough.
And next, the mayor of Hapeville, Alan Hallman.
Thank you very much. Mayor, you need to learn how to express yourself a little bit better.
I'm very shy.
I can tell. First of all, thank you to the City of College Park for hosting us tonight. It's an honor to be here. And it's really great to look out in this room and see every chair taken and them hauling more chairs in here. That's a good thing to see, because that means that this means something to you and you're willing to come out here tonight and spend your time. As one said earlier, you had other things to do tonight and you chose to be here, so we appreciate that. Everybody's pretty much touched on everything I was going to touch on. For the city of Hapeville, we collect about $2.25 million a year in local option sales tax revenue. For us, losing that totally would lead to a $4 to $5 million tax increase. Mayor, you said what I was going to say about them. While they're sitting here telling us how we need to handle our money, they sit there and lower taxes when we're struggling. All of us have had tax increases. The county's digest has gone up drastically in the last year. And so we had a millage rate hearing last night, and, you know, folks aren't happy because they want us to roll our millage rate back too. But guess what? We have police officers and firefighters that we are fighting like hell to keep because there's so much competition out there for the shrinking pool of first responders. So we have to do our part as cities. The services that we provide are closer to you than anything you'll ever get from the county. I promise you that. So what we're asking for, and the one notable absence I want you to think about tonight is who's not here. Just think about that for a minute. Who's not here? We've had negotiations. We had a mediation meeting last Friday. Our representatives in Fulton County, they didn't come sit with us. They went off somewhere else. So I'm a big believer, as a person that's owned a business for 35 years, that anybody can work anything out if you sit down at the table together. And I believe we can work this out. And all the cities are doing is asking you, Fulton County, to come down out of the clouds, come join us in our reality, and share with our reality what services we provide to our citizens and how we have to pay for those, just like you have to pay for your services. They act like we're dealing with two different groups of people, but we're all Fulton County residents. If they take it from you out of one hand, we're going to have to get it out of your other hand. There's just no, unless the cities up here are willing to cut their services drastically, which is going to run all your residents away, I don't know what else we're supposed to do. So we're fighting very hard. We do have, all of our cities are united on this, and that's a blessing that we're able to sit around in the room together and fight for the collective good for the cities of Fulton County. So thank you again for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
So next we've got Ms. Bianca Motley Broom, the mayor of College Park.
I'm back again. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge our two mayors that came in, Mayor Khalid and Mayor Rusty Paul from Sandy Springs, Mayor Khalid from South Fulton, who have joined us because literally they're at one end, they're at two different ends of the county, but what you see here is that we are united. And I also wanted to thank Nina Hickson, the city attorney for the city of Atlanta, for coming as well, because we are all in this together. And I want to thank those of you who got on a bus in Roswell to come down, because you were, yes. Mayor Holiday Ingram and I were at the town hall in Roswell last week, and so many of you were so engaged and fired up about this. You said, of course we're going to come down and support you, because this is about all of us. And for the city of College Park, loss comprises about 10% of our general fund. And I don't think any of us who serve in an elected capacity in the city of College Park are willing to play politics with public safety. And that is what they are asking us to do, because our general fund is how we answer 911 calls. Our general fund is how we make sure that our residents are healthy and that they are safe and that they are protected. And in the city of College Park, we are working to do that every day. You hear me say that we are building the community that we deserve. We're already talking about a tax increase. And in part, it's so we can maintain the public safety personnel that we have. But the other part is in anticipation of the fact that this is not going well. We have to figure out what in the world we're going to do if Lost isn't around. Because, again, we cannot play politics with public safety. We did invite all of the Fulton County Commissioners to appear this evening. This was not supposed to be an event where we just talked and didn't have a dialogue with them. They have not come. Commissioners Ellis, Abdur Rahman, Morris, and Arrington said they would not be able to attend. The others went radio silent. I don't think that's good enough. That is not good enough when they are accountable to each one of us. You know where to find all these folks in your community. You know you're going to see me at the grocery store or maybe walking down Main Street. You know where to find us. We are the closest representatives that you have, and you track us down. You talk to us. We are accountable to you, and our commissioners are accountable to us. Ask them the hard questions. Ask them why they are so proud of a rollback in their millage rate, because they want to look like the good guys while they're putting it on our backs. But every single, well, let me stop. I'm making an assumption. Anybody here from unincorporated Fulton County? Raise your hand. So you are not one of the 889. Okay. Everyone in this room has chosen to be in a city in Fulton County. And part of that is because, as the last city that incorporated South Fulton, decided that they could provide services to their residents in a more efficient, better way than the county was doing. That's not the case everywhere in this state or even in Metro Atlanta. If you take a look at Cobb County, they had the opportunity to incorporate several cities there in the spring. And they said, no, I'm good being a part of East Cobb. I'm good with living in unincorporated Cobb County. I like those services, and they meet my needs. Every time citizens have had an opportunity to incorporate in Fulton County, they've chosen to do so. I think that says something about the quality of services that people have received and also what they want and the level of accountability that they want in their government. So we have to recognize that cities are the economic engines of this county and the entire state. Most of the employment happens in cities, and we are generating that tax revenue. For the county to start out with an opening proposal of 35% from 5% was insulting. It's insulting to all of us who try to work very hard to provide the services that you demand and that you're entitled to. And so it didn't set things off on a very good foot. And Commissioner Hausman, who showed up last week, said as much. And they've come down, but they're still, where they are, takes money out of each and every one of our budget. And how we make that up? Do we cut services? You still expect when you dial 911 that you're going to get that police officer, that firefighter. You don't expect a 10% reduction in efficiency for those public, for those first responders. You shouldn't expect that. And so I'm asking each one of you to go out, wait, how many? I said 4 last week, and you told me that you told them they should talk to 10 people, right? Yeah, 10 people. Tell 10 people what's going on, because this is sort of, it seems like it might be inside baseball, but actually, as Mayor Bradbury said, it's very simple when it comes right down to it. But they are expecting that people won't pay attention. We need your voice. We need you to be active on this issue and really press this. We are doing the best that we can, and we are standing united. And I want to thank Mayor Bradbury for having the idea in the first place, and Mayor Still from Mountain Park and Mayor Wilson from Roswell had prior commitments, and they're not able to be here, but we're all here united because this is a vitally important issue. And again, I just appreciate everybody being here, and I know that Mayor Holliday Ingram is going to give us a little bit more actually, you know what? I'm not the moderator. I'm going to let you do it. Thank you.
I feel like I'm in church.
I know. We are going to close with words from Mayor Deanna Holliday Ingraham, the mayor of East Point.
Yeah, Mayor Bradbury said he feels like we're in church. I do too. I would pass the offering plate, but we're trying to save money tonight. So we're going to skip before I go to offering. But ditto to everything that all of the mayors have said, my colleagues have said. Dina Holliday Ingram, mayor of the great city of East Point, where there's no point like East Point. And the impact on the city of East Point. So loss is about a little over $12.3 million annually for our budget. If loss goes away, we would have to have a millage rate of 21.69 mills. Our current millage rate is 13.25, and our millage rate cap is 15 mills. So what does that mean? In order for the county to walk away with a money grab, right, we'd have to ask the state legislature to amend our charter to increase our millage rate cap from 15 mills, I guess, to 25 to give us some cushion, right, because we need to go to almost 22 mills. And not only is the city of East Point in that position, Mayor Jameson of Milton mentioned, it's Milton, Johns Creek, as well as Sandy Springs. The four of us have millage rate caps. So those aren't things that you can deal with by home rule. The legislation specifically excludes taxation. So we have to go ask to increase our millage rate so that the county that currently it only has 0.08% of the county's population. And I got my numbers right. It's 0.08, not even 0.1% of the population lives in the county. That's 889 residents living within 1.62 square miles, less than 2 square miles. And the county wants, they initially started out at 35%. I, along with Mayor Paul, Mayor Gilvin, and Mayor Bodie, serve on the negotiating team for the cities, along with the Mayor Dickens of Atlanta. And the last offer is now between 7 to 19%. So start at 7, get to 19. So still wanting to go substantially high. And the county's last offer was 7%. And I'm so sorry, cities. Cities were 7 for the full 10 years. County 7 to 19% over the 10-year period. Again, for what? So Mayor Bradbury indicated that 40% of the property taxes or the revenue in Johns Creek comes from loss. At the town hall meeting last week in Roswell, Commissioner Hausman was there. And she said that loss is only 2% of the county's budget. And a resident asked, what is it used for? She said, it's so minuscule, I don't know. She was asked if the county was hurting by only being at 5%, right? The current is 5% to the county, 95% to the cities. She said no. So if all of that is true, then why are we even going through this? If it's 2% to the county, 40% to Johns Creek, and over 20% to other, why are we even doing this, right? And why are they choosing not to show up? Because we have insisted on having conversations in public while the county has been talking and discussing all of this in private. They had their first meeting in public last Wednesday before the town hall meeting in Roswell. Thanks again to Mayor John Bradbury for this whole idea. But that pulled them out, right? But where the county doesn't want to be is in the public. Now ask yourself why. That part, what are they trying to hide? So, SOL. I know it just came to your mind, but save our lost. And I got that from Mayor Gilvin, right? We are glad that you are here to help us save our lost. And it's really going to take, it's easy to deal with a negotiation team or to deal with 15 representatives from cities than to deal with 1 million, over 1 million residents in this county. And Mayor Paul, we have your slide deck up, and so I was teed up and ready to present it, but if you would like to, I can click the slides for you so that you can give good context around this, and this will help give us a common knowledge around all of this that we're talking about. But understand, this is so important. And to have the level of unity from the cities, like, we came together for CARES Act, through CARES Act, and that level of strengthening and working together to be able to help provide to our cities during COVID and the pandemic had us positioned for this time to be even stronger together and united. But the county literally, why is it important? Why are we talking about the county when 15 cities agree? Because this is how it works. 51% of the cities that represent 51% of the overall county population can deal with the city side. The county must agree. So even if all of us agree, if the county does not agree, we have no loss. And the unreasonableness, initially when we had our first negotiation meeting, Commissioner Ellis was talking about equity. He wants an equitable share, and the county needs an equitable share. And that sounds great, right? And I told him, I was so happy to hear him say equity. I hadn't heard him say equity that much in the whole time he served, right? This is more than words. It's really, action, but thank you for saying it. By the time we got to the next meeting, when they went from their 35% to this range of 25 to 32.67%, he started talking about reasonableness. I said, what happened to equity? Last meeting it was equitable, and we were trying to get equitable shares, and I'm all for equity. That's the work we do. Now we're talking about reasonableness because it's unreasonable. It's objectionable, it's unconscionable, it's all of those things. But we need you. So we need you, as Mayor Motley Broom said, 10 people, 20 people, as many people as you know. We need you to start reaching out to them. If you agree with us, as Mayor Rusty Powell said last week, if you agree with us, let us know. If you disagree with them, we definitely need you to let them know. Because when we come as many, we're able to hopefully get them to see the light. Because right now it's real dark. And so I think that's all of the things I want to highlight right now. Mayor Powell, if you'd like to, I'll click for you as you.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm not going to give a long. I just want to say, if you've been around Fulton County politics, and I have been for almost 45 years now. Yeah, I'm that old. North, South, there's always been a divide. Republican, Democrat, always been a divide. Black, white, an unfortunate divide. Look up here. Look up here. There's one positive thing that Fulton County has accomplished. They've organized all of us. We've set aside all those historic differences because we are focused on solving the real problems that you have in your daily life. And for the 15 of us, and I know that Mayor Dickens is not here, he's got a representative, he's as much with us as anybody. I can't say enough about Mayor Dickens and his role and what he's done to help in this process. He's done a phenomenal job. And anything that gets Sandy Springs and the city of Atlanta on the same page, that's a good thing. All right, Mayor, I'm going to stand up. How many of you actually know what LOST is and what it does and what it's supposed to do? I didn't know myself fully until we got into this discussion. But I'm going to give you a quick primer on what LOST is and why it's so important to you and to us and everything we do around here. Local option sales tax is the 1% sales tax that you voted on in a referendum and imposed on the purchase and sale of rental, storage, use, all the stuff that we buy. But as you heard earlier, and you know this because the number one economic engine in Georgia is right over here, and a lot of this money is coming from those people who just landed or just took off. They're paying about 40+% of the taxes. Now, who pays 100% of the property taxes? Would you rather have other people's money, or you have to pay the whole burden? So this is what this comes down to. So LOST provides here's the main thing to keep in mind. Property is supposed to provide property tax relief for municipal services. It means that the cities don't have to rely as much on your property taxes as historically we have. The state law also requires what we're doing right now every 10 years. Because of population changes and population shifts, we have to renegotiate the distribution of these funds. That's required by state law. So that's what we're doing. But Fulton County is unique. There is not another county in all of Georgia that is as municipalized as Fulton County. So we're kind of an anomaly in this process. And that's where the real contention is. And as you've probably heard already, this goes away by December 30th of this year if we don't reach agreement. December 30th is an important date in my house because that's my wife's birthday. And I've already told her, don't expect me to be home on her birthday because I really believe this is going to go to the very bitter end. This is what the law says. This is what the taxes are supposed to be used for. It provides a specific list of 14 services that counties and cities may provide, may pay for. In other words, if you look up there, you don't see courts. You don't see a lot of things that the county provides. Yet they're trying to take the money to provide services that are not covered under these 14 areas. Most of these 14 things are services provided by cities. For example, you can't use it for education. They're talking about the jail. You can't use it for the jail. They're talking about courts and clerks, and they just put $70 million in federal money. None of the cities got any of the ARPA money, and they put $70 million in the courts. They're supposed to be able to move these cases through. Has anybody noticed that the courts have gotten a lot more efficient with the $70 million they've already put into the courts? I haven't. Can't use it for the administration, can't use it for the sheriff, can't use it for tax commissioner, can't use it for board of elections, and can't use it to assess your taxes. So, and these are some of the services that, unfortunately, they're talking about. This is the justification for it, particularly the jail. Lost is one of the most significant sources of revenue for municipal governments. It's second only to the property tax. You've heard the range, for anywhere from 40% of the budgets for some cities. It's about 27% in Sandy Springs. And so we have to, if it goes away, we have to lay off police officers, firefighters. We subsidize our ambulance services. You'll have to wait a long time for an ambulance to show up at your house if you've got an emergency, if this goes away. In Georgia, across the state, the cities received $745 million in these revenues, and we've all used it for property tax relief. It's interesting that one of the criticisms that one of the commissioners leveled at us is, well, you haven't reduced your tax. Well, we have a tax cap. And, oh, by the way, we have in Sandy Springs, we have a rolling homeowner exemption, homestead exemption, so that when the inflation, which was in Fulton County this year, 9.1%, goes up 9.1%, we can only raise your taxes based on your assessment by either the Consumer Price Index or 3%, whichever one is the lower. So we're squeezed. We can't raise the millage rate, and we can't benefit from appreciation in property values. And some other cities are like that as well. Statewide, loss represents about 20% of the general municipal revenues. But in Fulton County, the cities share the loss, and it's just over 95% of the budget. Now, 10 years ago, Fulton did have 15%. And then the voters in South Fulton said, we want to have our own city under the state law. Now, county says this was improperly ripped from them. Just because the fine folks in South Fulton decided they wanted to create a city, because like the rest of us had decided that Fulton County wasn't providing the services they wanted, they created a new city, and that city's share had to come out of the counties. So what Fulton County is proposing is reducing the funding that supports all these critical services like police, fire, ambulance, EMPs, parks. I was late tonight because we had a meeting with the Sandy Springs Conservancy, and they were talking about their parks and the trails they want to build and help us and have the city pay for it, by the way. I said, if this goes away, you can forget all this. All this work, all this planning and parks and everything else that every one of these mayors has done evaporates. You don't get it. County's not going to step in. They're not proposing to come in and pick up those services. So they go away. As you see, pie charts are easy to read. Right now they get 4.974%, and the cities get the rest. I explain why that's changed. If Fulton County gets what they want, which this is their initial proposal, was 35%, you can see that pie chart. That pie chart comes out of the budget of every city sitting up here. As well, for the city of Atlanta, it's $150 million. It would be absolutely catastrophic. If you don't care about anybody else, the capital city of the state of Georgia will have the biggest hit. They're trying to hire police officers. They won't be able to afford to hire police officers. They're trying to do a lot of positive things. They won't be able to afford that. And that spills over into our communities too. As you see that the population in 2000, before all this municipalization, was about 229,000 people in the unincorporated area, which was about 28.18% of the total population. You can go ahead and flip now. Let's get to 2010. By 2010, the population of the county was 87,478, which was just slightly under 10% of the total population. Then the folks in South Fulton decided they want to join the rest of us and become a municipality. So Fulton County went down to 889 people, the number of people that they provide direct, complete services for. That's less than, you see, 0.08%, and they've got 2 square miles. We did an analysis, by the way. Fulton County spends $20,000 per head in services in that 2 square miles. Sandy Springs, we spend $1,000 per head for the same services. So it's not a very efficient way to expend your tax dollars. So you can kind of see, I'm not going to go through, you all can read, you can see what this does. It kind of summarizes what would happen to, how this all processed over the last 22 years. And you can kind of see what the impact of Fulton County's 35% request. Yes, they've dropped it, but it still takes a tremendous amount of money out of the city budgets. Still something on the order of about 250% increase. And you can see what this does to, just as I say, using the city of Atlanta, the most important city. I hate to say this among all my other mayors here, but it is the most important city in Fulton County. And their impact. Clark, it's okay. Pound Mound is number 2. So you see the data there, so it cuts. It has a real cut in the services that you expect. Mayor Motley Broom and Mayor Holiday Ingram talked about that when you dial 911. You expect somebody to answer and then that they be there in a very short period of time. When you're in an emergency, you know what the sweetest sound is? It's a siren. Because you know that help is on the way. And if this happens, that sweet sound is going to be further and further away and longer to get to you. So, and well, they've kind of gotten off. My city, when the county wants to count everybody twice. They say that they are city residents and they're also county residents, so there's 2 of you. My city attorney asked, well, does that mean if we're all 2 people that all of us can now ride in the HOV lane? I may try that and just see how it works. I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm not sure that Fulton County math is going to work. This is the last proposal that this is one of the most recent proposals. It kind of gives you the outline of where the county is at this point in the last negotiating session. They made some minor changes, but this is still pretty much where we are. They gave us 3 options. One would start at 6%, then go over to 25% over a 10-year period, and it ramped up. It looks like, okay, that's reasonable, and it's 25%. It ramps up pretty quick. And then option number 2, it keeps the city's share level, and the county gets all the growth. We talked about 9.1% inflation. I hope that it goes down, and I believe it will. But at that point, if it stays for any length of time, the city's share over 10 years at 9.1%, the buying power of the city shares under their proposal goes to 0. Because inflation will have wiped out all the buying power under that proposal. And then the third option is the city share constant 2001 levels all year. And then we would share in the growth again only when the county reaches 25%. Again, the buying power of those dollars, of your tax dollars, at the current rates of inflation in the metropolitan Atlanta area, over 10 years, that money evaporates. You would not be able to go out and buy much more than a few loaves of bread with what Fulton County would leave us under that proposal. So the city's counteroffer is we increase the county share from 4.9 to 6.5 over 10 years. That's an 83% increase. How many of you have gotten that much pay increase over the last 10 years in your salary? So it's pretty generous, and it's a 30% increase over their current year. We think we're being reasonable. We think we're being equitable. We think we're being all the terms that they say that we should take into consideration. So that's kind of where we are. And I'm going to close simply by saying this. Talk to your commissioners. Let them know. If you agree with them, let us know. Let us know. If we're wrong, we'll admit it. But if you think that the city's position is the right one, we've done all we can do. It's your voice that matters now. If you're not willing to speak up and tell your commissioners how you feel, this is what's going to end up, just exactly that previous slide. So call your commissioners, write your commissioners, email your commissioners, send smoke signals to your commissioners, and let them know if you agree with us, or let us know if you agree with them. You think the county deserves more money to spend in the way they've spent it in the past? Say thank you and do it some more.
So this slide represents the negotiation timeline that we were in. So we literally were in mediation last Friday from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and didn't settle. So you see October the 7th is the next date where we will continue mediation, and then again, we have to make a decision by December 30th. If not, it expires on December 31st. And so we're going to go into Q&A now, and Kipling Primus of the local take from Jazz 99.1 is going to facilitate that. And what I'm going to leave on the screen while we're doing that is this important information.
So questions. Who has questions? You all have a chance to ask the mayor's questions. Okay.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Willis from the City of South Fulton. I have talked to my commissioner on multiple occasions about this. One of the things that I want to ask, are you all bringing up the fact that they are providing non-mandated services and trying to account for that? Because I did speak with my commissioner about that and asked, his argument to that was we can't stop providing services that cities are used to us providing. And so I would ask that you all look at the non-mandated services that they are providing. For example, why do they have a police department? Why? I mean, they're spending millions of dollars for a police department. The police chief is making close to $200,000, and they have a sheriff that's responsible for the whole county. All of us have police departments. So that's a duplication. That's a main duplication of service they don't need. The other thing is there's a conflict in what you all are telling us and what they believe they can use loss for. Because they are saying that they can use loss for courts and jails and services like that. But what we are being told and what was reported to us by the attorney that's representing all of the cities is that that is not the proper use of loss. So have you all reached out to a higher authority to get an opinion on that so that that can be put to bed? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Willis. So the county does not want to read the law or comply with the law. That's basically it, right? So the county is saying that they can cover things that we put up that slide of the supplementary powers. So they want to be able to use loss for those things, but that's why they have property taxes. And we all know who represent cities that we get the least amount of money on the property tax bill. It's the county, then the schools, then us, right? So to your question of whether or not we're seeking a higher power, we are planning to file a declaratory judgment action because we can agree on population. We believe there's just over 1 million people in the county. The county has figured out how to clone all of us, and there's 2 of us, and they believe is over 2 million people. So that's something that we fundamentally disagree on. We fundamentally disagree on the services that should be paid for in this, as well as the service area. And that's what the declaratory judgment action will do, file it to get a court interpretation of that. We have until December 30th, so we all have to pray that we get a judge who wants, all of the judges in Fulton County will likely be conflicted off. We'll have to find someone else, but that they will expedite this and resolve it so that we can at least have an interpretation. That's not going to resolve the issue, but it will give us a level of decision around those things that we fundamentally disagree on. And to the question about non-mandated services and the duplication of police services, I'm going to turn over to Mayor Bradbury because he has the slide that provides information that he can talk about on that.
Thank you, and everything you said was spot on. And before I'll show that slide in just a second, regarding a higher power, the Georgia Supreme Court has ruled on this exact issue. So in 1983, in a case with Tattnall County was trying to say, hey, we can use this for education, right? No, wrong. They said that is unconstitutional. The law is very clear. It has to be spent on those 14 supplementary powers, those very specific responsibilities that were up on the slide earlier. So let's look at public safety expenditures for Fulton County, 2016 versus 2020. You're not going to be able to see this. Maybe you can, the ones with good eyes, better than mine. So basically, as we became new cities and we decreased the unincorporated area and became incorporated, it decreased, obviously, the population that Fulton County Police and Fire was servicing because the cities were picking up that slack. What's interesting is even though their expenditures for police and fire did decrease, not as much as you would hope, but the Public Safety Administration, which is what this is how much public safety, can you hold that up? This is how much, I can't do the microphone in, this is how much Vanna White, she really deserves what she, this is what their public safety expenditure was back in 2016. This is what it is today. It's gone from 2 million to 32 million. I mean, on what planet does that make any sense? So, you know, are there things that could be done differently? Absolutely. Should the cities have to pay for that? I don't think so.
Our next question.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for having us today, and thank you for being here. Alvin Reynolds, resident of the city of South Fulton. Since we all care about our citizens, both Fulton County and our cities, has there been any measures discussed as to what the county is going to do to help the cities in the case of this lost revenue? You can all say it at once.
I think we've asked a lot of questions like that. Have there been any answers? No. The answers have been, we have needs. And basically, they have a veto, so they don't really feel like they have to give you an explanation. But they have been asked numerous times. But thank you for bringing that point up.
Yeah, the cavalier statement of we need to be prepared for life after loss kind of sums up, and that came from the chairman, that sums up the sentiment, and I'll say of him. They each are individuals, right? But that was what was shared, and that level of callous disregard of the impact on the rest of us and all of you who live in municipal cities is what we're dealing with. Life after loss, if loss goes away, the county hasn't said if loss goes away, we're doing ABC, we're going to do anything additional. The things that they have on their fact sheet, which is kind of like a non-fact sheet, says that they need to provide for courts and jails. We just said that's not one of the things. Healthcare is one, But I'll tell you this about healthcare, being the mayor of the city of East Point, where Wellstar AMC South is located. I went to Chairman Pitt's pre-pandemic about the situation at that location and said that Wellstar serves the same mix and the same type of patients as Grady, right? A very high uninsured patient mix there. And is there anything that can be done? Because the county gives $40 to $60 million per year to Grady. $40 to $60 million per year to Grady to serve the same type of patients or patient mix at Wellstar AMC South. Councilmember Karn was a commissioner then, and he showed up at a meeting where we were trying to convene the county to talk with Wellstar about this issue. And so stroking a check now in an election year is a Band-Aid, right? It's not going to resolve the issue. Giving more money to Grady makes that mean that everybody's going to have to go to Grady. I had a family member that went there, and there were people waiting in the hallway. That's beyond the door. When you go to try to get to a room, we had to walk past people who were on beds in the hallway waiting to get into a room. And so if everybody's going to have to go to one location because that's where money is being poured into, like by the tens of millions, hundreds of millions, that doesn't resolve the issue of needing to ensure that we have a acute care ER and hospital in the south side of the county. And so there's no talk, though, of that. And even our, going from our initial offer was 2.45%, and now we're up to 7%. So that takes into consideration one of those things that is up there is healthcare, right? It says public health facilities and services. So that takes that into consideration, and we'd love to have a conversation about what that looks like for South Fulton. But that hasn't happened. And so, when asked at the last town hall meeting, what does the county use the lost money for? The response from Commissioner Hausman is so minuscule, I don't know. Right? So that's kind of all we have right now.
I'll just add just one last thing, and maybe someone else does as well. About a week or two ago, if you saw the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, you saw where Governor Kemp released a package, a $130 million package to boost Grady Health System. Now, that's not everything, but, I was struck, Mr. Mayor, sorry, you're down there, but during your prayer, you said, we pray for a spirit of reconciliation and fairness. I don't know of anybody on the city side that is looking to be vindictive or that wants to, stick it to Fulton County. That sentiment does not exist. Now, we want to protect our cities, absolutely. But so we want there to be a fair and equitable equation. In our last offer, we put up an offer that would put in another $51 million towards health care services for Fulton County. And they said no. Show us the numbers. Show us what the need is. Give us a target. It cannot be a moving target, whatever pie in the sky, crazy fantasy land picture you want to paint. I mean, look, I don't like what's happening at Rice Street. But the law is the law, and it is set up the way it is so that there is a structure in place for how we are to share these proceeds. Fulton County and the commissioners need to step up. They need to get specific. They need to get serious. We've got to start having negotiations like adults.
And our next question.
Can I add one more thing? That you've heard a lot of us up here talk about what we would not be able to do in the event that loss goes away or is significantly reduced. You will not hear that from the county. They can live without it. We're the ones. And again, there's no one in that 889 in here. So we are the ones who can't live without it. Or we're going to face some serious consequences for the property owners of the city. You will not hear Fulton County say, if loss doesn't go through, we won't be able to keep Grady open. You won't hear them say, if loss doesn't go through, we're going to have to do even more drastic things at the jail. I agree with Mayor Bradbury. I served as a magistrate court judge in Fulton County, had to go down to Rice Street for a preliminary hearing. There's a lot that needs to change at Rice Street. I don't think anyone up here is going to tell you that it's in pristine condition. However, the plans that the county has to do all the things that they want to do will still move forward. The plans that the cities have, you heard Mayor Paul say, parks will not happen. You've heard others of us say that response times will be down. There are real consequences to loss not being renewed or being renewed in such a way that it is not equitable or reasonable for cities.
I'm from Chattahoochee Hills, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to have citizens come and hear from all the mayors and representatives. We've had a little bit of a mixed message, though, from you all because you've been in negotiations. We've got a little bit of information on what's going on, but kind of got the impression, don't make any waves just yet because we're in negotiating. Now it seems like negotiations coming to an end and you're asking for our help. What I'd like to ask you all for is a little help that we can turn back to our communities. All this information needs to be boiled down. Probably the most important thing you've said tonight is each one of you saying, here's the impact to our individual communities based on your house. If it's a $300,000 house, this is what it's going to cost you extra if we're going to continue to provide the services you have today and we lose loss this year. If we lose loss this year, it's going to be at least another year before it can go to referendum. And if it goes before a referendum, there's a chance it may not pass. So this is your best chance. If you can give us that boiled down information, we can get people to send emails. We can invite our representatives to our city hall and ask them to have this meeting. And it'll be very interesting if a community invites a representative and they decline. It's one thing if you guys do, but the people that are electing them, maybe another thing. But anyway, thank you very much, and I hope you can help us with.
Let me tell you where you can get that boiled down information. We've just opened a website called SaveFultonCities.com. I think that's right. SaveFultonCities.com. The website's live. All this information that you've heard tonight is there. You can get your boiling pot out and boil it any way you want to. So it's all up online, and so that you can get whatever information you feel that will be most useful and put it to work.
SaveFultonCities.com. Okay, next question.
Thank you, mayors. You're doing a wonderful job. It makes my life very easy when I'm talking to the voters, saying that so many people are fighting for them. One of the things which I want to highlight is this double counting. Some people may call it fuzzy math. But I reached out to one of the commissioners, and they were of the opinion that the courts have already opined on that. Can any of you confirm that? Thank you.
To our knowledge, the courts haven't opined on it. If that were the case, we wouldn't be trying to get a court. There have been some opinions issued. I think maybe was it an attorney general opinion, Rusty? There's some other things that they have in their coffers. But I can tell you this, the county is really concerned about filing a declaratory judgment action to actually have a court make that decision. And so if we felt there was an opinion out there that will do what the court case will do, we wouldn't be doing that. We don't have that. What we have is disagreement and a battle of experts, right? So they have an expert at the county level that supports the aggregation double counting theory. So right now each side has its own position, and to my knowledge, there's not an opinion already out there by the court on the issues of population, who should be counted. Is it double counting? Or is it really when the law says the population of the cities and the county? What would you think that means? All of the numbers plus 889, right? It wouldn't mean 1 million plus another million. So if we read the same language in the statute, that's what it says, is the population in the city and the county. Their position is the city's population is the county's population, so it's 1 million plus 1 million. And again, unless we know how to clone people and we all can ride in the HOV lane, that doesn't necessarily work. And I know Mayor Khalid indicated he wanted to respond to a previous question as well.
I wanted to speak to actually my constituent, Mr. Reynolds. I thought you asked a really great question about what might happen with the additional money. I think one of the ways to think about that is what is happening with the money that we are giving them now. The Fulton County gets about $16 million a year in loss, but that is not all that they get. All of the cities up here pay additional millions of dollars for services. We pay in the city of South Fulton, not South Fulton County, just in the city of South Fulton, we pay nearly $3 million a year in E911 service fees. How many people in this room have called 911 and got not a live person, but a recording? Does that seem like $3 million of service? We pay, in addition to the $16 million, we pay over $8 million a year for animal control. Just in the city of South Fulton. All the other cities are paying additional as well. Mr. Reynolds, do you think we get $8 million worth of service in animal control? So if we're talking about doubling, tripling, quadrupling the $16 million, however this turns out, I think the question to ask all of our commissioners is, what are you doing with the money that we're already giving you? Because I don't think, as residents, I don't think we're seeing it.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, my name is Eddie Hollingsworth. I'm from the city of East Point, and I have two questions. One of the questions is, with the cities that have been incorporated now, that should give less, people for Fulton County. So how are they justifying the amount of increases from 5% to 30%? And is there a law that they have to do somewhat of a line item for these for these monies, in other words? And one other question about the hospital. We've lost 2 hospitals basically on the south side. And Fulton County itself and the CAP, or the main payers, to Grady. And Grady basically takes care of anybody that from throughout the state. And I'd like to know why we're not putting more emphasis on the state, stepping in and taking the responsibility of helping funding, even though it's in Fulton County. What Fulton County, Grady basically will see anyone within the state of Georgia.
Yes, thank you for that question. Fulton County hasn't given any justification that we believe for 35%. So that'll be a 600% increase in the share that they receive now, which is hundreds of millions of dollars over the 10-year period without any justification. So a line item of like, if we go up to 35 million and it's 281 million or $300 million over the next 10 years, we're going to do $300 million worth of service. They haven't provided that because it doesn't exist because of the 14 supplementary powers that the money can cover. Majority of those are provided by cities. As it relates to the state stepping in on the hospital issue, Mayor Bradbury indicated that the governor just released, I was about to figure out, wrote a check, but he didn't write, released $130 million to Grady for the impact of the closures. But again, I too think that that's a Band-Aid. That's a one-time that's going to happen right now. What does that really look like in practice? And so I think the governor may have felt that that's a step, like something has to be done, we know. But if we can stroke a $130 million check now, like how much more money can we put towards health care to ensure? We've had 6 hospitals close in the state. And, you know, there are a number of different things that could help that, Medicaid expansion and others. But there's also, you know, the reality that I get what they're trying to do to make sure that they're beds, right? So if you lose beds, where are those beds going to go? But the reality of it is, if all of the beds are further away from our homes, miles mean life or death in critical situations, especially in metro Atlanta traffic, right? So the question becomes, really, what is the long-term solution? What are the long-term strategies? How do we get people to provide care in our communities, communities of color, people who care and want to provide care to people in our community, because they will figure out how to provide care to make it work. And so it's not unique to our area, unfortunately, and it's not unique to Georgia. This happens across the country. So this level of the sick model of healthcare versus the well model of healthcare has us struggling. And it's something that we all have to continue to work. I mean, I'm meeting with doctors and, you know, people who, you know, have interest in hospitals, like to try to figure out how do we ensure that we have accessible, affordable, comprehensive, high-quality health care in our communities, regardless of the name of the company. And that is the long-term issue that we have to find a long-term solution to.
And our next question.
Hi, I'm Angela Millen of Union City. I'm just curious. I've been knowing about the loss for a while. First of all, I'm a twin, so that is 2 of me plus 2 of my sister. Mario, you got a twin as well. And they might be counting the dogs and cats as well. I have a real issue with Fulton County, serious issue with this. That math don't make sense. I'm a math major. It don't exist. That math don't exist at all. But my question is, I know you got a website, and I was just curious. I haven't been on the website, but I'm curious, do y'all have maybe like a draft letter like Commissioner Vashon, whatever her name is? I just messed up her name on purpose. I know her real name. I'm just putting it out there because I don't like what's going on at Fulton County. She represents us for a very short period. Soon it'll be over. But the problem, yes, I said it. You know, I'm a vocal. But my point is, as she comes up with these boilerplate letters that she drafts asking citizens to come support the things that she wants, why do we have a letter out there on your website that we can use, like a draft letter that we can give to our citizens and say, send this to your commissioners? I haven't been on the website, so if it's there, thank you. But if it's not, I would like to get a copy of that, because I'm being counted twice. My sister's been counted twice. You know, I'm serious. I am a twin. So, and to see that this math, I told my dad it don't exist. I've never heard of that type of math and adding. I know that 1 + 1 is 2. Now, I did have a college professor did add 1 + 1 = 3, but that was this long algorithm theory and all this. I was like, I don't believe it. But I don't know what math they're using, but I totally want us to get to some resolution. I think we need to get a busload of folks from every city and just go and pack the county on that meeting.
Ma'am, if you'll, and this is for everybody, go to the website. I mean, we just got it up. It's fresh. It's brand new. It's not complete. If you see things there that you think we need to add, let us know. We'll take care of it. That's a good suggestion.
And our next question.
Hi, my name is Felicia Powell. I'm from the city of Fairburn. And my question is, if the county feels generous to negotiate in a fair way, what is going to be our plan as a city to kind of cipher off that money to create another line for our city so we won't have to be in this position again. Since they think that, they're going outside of the 14, is it possible for, for the cities to go outside the 14 too, if the county is feeling fair, if we get the lost money in the cities to stay? Is that possible?
If I understand your question correctly, and you're saying that is there an opportunity for us to, as cities, if the negotiations work out, that we would broaden our use under the 14? Is that?
Not broaden our use, but, well, I guess broaden for the city, maybe create another line where we can take part of that percentage that we get, from the county and keep it under the city, so next time if they say, hey, it's about to expire, we don't care about the cities, we're going to keep it for the county. What can the cities do?
Well, we have to basically start from scratch every 10 years per the statute. So I guess we sort of started from where we were, and we've expanded. Anything above 4.9% is a loss for us. Anything. And so we're already negotiating in a way that is going to result in a loss for each city, because the last proposal that we made would have them ratchet up to 7%. So over the course of the next 10-year period. So they would have to go south of 4.9 for us to realize a net gain. So that's probably not happening.
And our next question.
Sure. I'm Sam Kluglein. I'm from the city of Johns Creek. And a couple of things that I'm wondering about is I think it's wonderful that you're all so collaborative and willing to offer the county more. But as I understand it, the interpretation of the law is that it's based on population. And so while we can mobilize 1 million residents in Fulton County, I'm not convinced that Mr. Pitts, Commissioner Pitts, or his colleagues, regardless of whether we mobilize 1 million or the 2 million, the way he counts them, are going to move him. I don't know why we're not directing our efforts to the state legislature and asking for an emergency referendum. Thank you.
Sam, first off, I got to give kudos to Johns Creek because we represented today. We came down. Thank you. Got a bunch of council members. Roswell too. But North Fulton and South Fulton, arm in arm. Like I said earlier, Senator Albers has said basically as much as what you're suggesting, that there be something from the state that says just do it by population. When you look at Gwinnett, when you look at Cobb County, the two other largest counties in Metro Atlanta region, their SPLOST is done just exactly by population. Very straightforward. And, it's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of sad. I mean, you had mentioned it earlier. All of us were down at GMA in downtown Atlanta on Friday, and I now affectionately refer to it as Lost Friday. Every Friday is now Lost Friday. It's a lot of people for us to go down, and the county commission's going down, and we're all just there just waiting for a proposal that really doesn't make any sense. I mean, come on, we got to get serious.
Only thing I'd like to say is if Mayor Motley Broom would talk about her negotiations with other counties.
Clayton said, how about we keep it the same? And we all said, okay. And we actually all just met over Zoom, and it was really simple. We had one meeting where the city said, are you going to hire an expert? And the county said, well, are you going to hire an expert? Well, I guess it depends on what you say. And then the county said, how about we keep it the same? And we said, we'll think about it. And we said, yeah. And it was really easy. It doesn't have to be this hard. There are a number, we're not the only ones going through these challenges, though. There's a number of counties across the state where they're really hashing this out. Tift County is one of them, because the president of GMA is Julie Smith, the mayor of Tifton, and she's been talking about some of the challenges that they're going through as well. There's been sort of this aggressive kind of stance that the counties have been taking this time around without consideration for who it's really impacting. We all serve the same people. But for some reason, there is this sort of, I want all the chips kind of thing. And ultimately, it hurts the people we serve.
And our next question.
Good evening. I am Dr. Lawana Owens-Twaits from Union City. And just looking at the website, I know what really caused me angst is I was listening to the increase in the millage rate. And that is really what's going to get people actively engaged in this, because everybody now is getting their property tax bills. And if they understand the ramifications of opening that next property tax bill and seeing your tax rate go from $6,000 a year to $9,000 a year, that's where we have the fire going. And so just looking at the website, and thank you so much for telling us that there is a website, because I started immediately thinking how I can mobilize folks. But just looking at the website, I'm thinking that just a suggestion that it really is going to have to really focus on the fact that the millage rate will go up. It's kind of, iffy. Local option sales taxes have one purpose: to reduce property taxes for essential services. So it really doesn't make it personal. And I'm thinking that in order to really get people to send those emails, to make those phone calls, we're really going to have to make this personal. Because listening to you and hearing about a potential 5% millage rate increase immediately or more, immediately I thought about my property taxes. And that's really what's going to get people activated.
Thank you, thank you. Next question here.
Hi, Jeff Johnston from Milton. A couple of questions. First of all, thank you all for pulling this town hall together. I think these need to continue to keep everybody informed. I would ask on the website that if some of us develop artifacts or letters that we can share that help others in the group provide documentation or a standard to send out. Is there any way or facility, Mayor Paul, within the website to be able to do that? Secondly, yes, you've incited some activists and with interested party here. How do we keep these folks together or interact north and south and east and west, so if we get a bus tour going, we can all support one another?
Let me talk about the letters. And I've probably over my career received more letters than anybody up here. Lloyd Benson one time said, when somebody was talking about a grassroots campaign, he said, I know the difference between grassroots and AstroTurf. If you get a bunch of form letters that say the same thing, they have virtually no impact. So what is best, if you can and will, we can put some sample letters or something on there, but the most effective way you can communicate is communicate from your heart. Take this information and write down exactly in your own words. You don't have to be a journalist or a great novelist to write a letter. Just put your heart and soul on paper or on your keyboard and touch send. That's the most effective way to communicate with your elected officials. That is, they pay more attention to that. We'll put some ideas up there, but it's most important that you tell your elected officials from your heart how you feel about this.
All right, next question.
Okay. John. So when they were talking earlier about what the commission wants, they wanted about responsible. It reminded me, I watched some of the commission meetings, and they were discussing spending money.
Hold on, they're bringing another one to you.
Here you go. This one's tired.
Found out they had about $3.8 million unallocated. And so he said, well, let's just throw another $1 million at the arts stuff. And I'm thinking, what kind of responsible leadership is in deciding what you're going to spend money on is that? Shouldn't you have an idea of what they're going to be doing with it? But no, just throw another $1 million at it. It's my taxpayer money. They're just throwing it around. So as you're dealing with the commission, if they think, well, if you don't do what we want, we'll just not agree to anything. Well, if they want to not agree to anything, why don't you just say, don't take your 2%, you don't seem to need it, just give it all to us.
Right.
Good evening. I just want to thank everybody for being here, of course, like everyone else. My name is Brett Reichert, and I'm from Hapeville, right down the road here. I'm also on City Council and have the honor of serving with our mayor, who was on the board. He did not leave because I'm in the room, I'll say. But also want to thank, of course, mayors of East Point and College Park for bringing us together. My question is, there was a slide earlier with all of the county commissioners' names and emails. Of course, that's online. But the question is, are they just as unified in their position against the cities as the cities are against their position, or are any of them sensible and reasonable?
So, Commissioner Hausman, because that's the only one that's spoken outside the negotiation team. So, our interactions with the negotiation team, and we haven't settled. But what Commissioner Hausman said at the meeting last week is that the majority, and Mayor Bradbury said she thinks she said there was only one person that is not committed to, that 6 of them are committed to making sure that it doesn't expire, was the conclusion we drew. We also know that this is not unanimous. So what we're dealing with the negotiation team, there's not a level of unanimity around it. What we don't know is who's who. We can speculate where people are, because the county has done so much talking in private and hasn't taken a public vote around anything that would give us an idea of who's who. We have some level of speculation of who we think it is, around 4-3, right? And who those persons may be, but we don't have definitive information. And when the chairman was asked, he said he wouldn't give us that information if he had it. So that's why we're saying everyone, because we're not sure where it is. But we, if based upon Commissioner Hausman's statements, this is not the unanimous sentiment of the commission, but we don't know where the majority is or what percentage the majority is at. We don't know where that is, and that's why we need you.
I'll just add, just real quick, one of our constituents had an interaction with one of the county commissioners and was asking for their position on loss, and he responded with a response that does not make logical sense. Basically said that the county should be able to increase its share of lost, and the county should be able to lower its millage rate, and the cities will be able to also lower its millage rates. I don't know. Where is my math professor? I might need your help. We need to get y'all up into Johns Creek. Y'all are saying a lot of things that make a lot of sense to me. So.
It's not really a question. I'm Marie Terry, and I'm from East Point. The word lost, I don't like the word lost, even though it says local option sales tax. That word is very bad. And I don't know why Fulton County is being so greedy. For I, for one, own a home in East Point, and I need that local. I need that sales tax. We need it for our roads and our streets. We definitely need that in East Point. Even with the homeowners and the homestead, we need it. And I hope and I pray that you guys, when y'all go back to that negotiation table, Mayor Deanna Ingram, I hope we have the LOST. I hope we have it, because we really need it in East Point. A lot of counties need that. And I don't know why Fulton County is so greedy. To me, they're being greedy.
Yeah, it is. It's greed. And for all of you who are people of faith, whatever higher being you believe in, we need some prayers, really. Like, we need a miracle. I do want to acknowledge that there are a number of other council members from cities, from the 15 cities. So if you all would just stand now, we have quite a good showing from other elected. So I wanted to definitely, several of them asked questions, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to do that. I think we have one more question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, another thing I want to add in, ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sitting there thinking as we try to bring this to a reasonable solution between the county and the cities, there are other areas that every mayor up here, along with actually everyone that I just saw in the news the other day, I think it's Georgia Power that's going up 12% in a year. For myself, there's a concern that me and my city council, one just left, that we've got to purchase sewer capacity. And so the loss of local option sales tax has a major burden from our perspective. And I mean, this is every city, not just Fairburn, but because some of the unforeseen conditions that are about to commence. And like I said, Georgia Power going up 12% for a lot of us that buy power, that have our own utility power. You're going to see, actually, whether you're Greystone or NM, you're going to see the hike. And so that's another area of concern that every mayor, regardless of geographical area, is going to have to address. And so when you look at it holistically, the loss of local option sales tax right now literally just compounds concerns that many of us already have. And again, as a mayor just coming back in office, two areas of concern, like I said again, utility rates that me and my city manager talked about, as well as sewer capacity, and now Georgia Power talking about going up 12%. I believe I saw it the other day. And so all these concerns, you don't hear the mayors and council members talk about this publicly, but many of the men and women you see sitting up here, and a lot of truth be told, most of them in the state, are having these conversations behind the scenes of what do we do as it relates to making sure we got enough reserve, making sure our bond, we've got, most of us up here got some type of bonds that we're required by state law to have X number of dollars in our coffers just to cover the bond debt. So again, the picture is much worse than most of us are even up here letting you know. That's why we can't lose this money.
My name is Sally Freeman, and I'm a Roswell resident and rode the Roswell party bus up here with our city council members and some of you guys. So it's great to be here. Thanks to everyone. I wanted to speak to a couple of things. One, I would like to get a better idea of what's the realistic timeline. You know, I know Senator Albers had mentioned that he's going to go to bat for us, but when can that really happen? Is that really a feasible option, or is that somewhere down the road? That's, and I hope someone, can address that. But I also wanted to read part of a response from Bob Ellis to one of our citizens. When this citizen reached out with these concerns about loss, I was pretty shocked at the response. My understanding was that there were negotiations going on, and it's become very clear that that's not what's happening from what I'm hearing from some of you folks. So, when we're asking our citizens to reach out to our commissioners, we've got to prepare them also for the disingenuous responses that they may get, and we need to strategize knowing that and making sure that we get, we mobilize in a way that counters that as well. So the website's a great start, but I love some of these other suggestions. I love the mobile, getting people around and getting buses together. But I want to read part of this. I won't read the whole thing because a lot of it is like a political diatribe about his own accomplishments and blah, 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 blah. We won't go into all of that. But then, and you'll love this, unfortunately, some city officials, left out that all 15 mayors, Some city officials have spread a great deal of misinformation about the lost renegotiation process. The county is not seeking a new agreement that will result in increased millage rates for cities, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not going to read all of it. It goes on and on. But it does say, instead, the county is seeking an agreement that is in the overall best interest of the taxpayers and provides the best opportunity for millage rates to be the same or in a position to be reduced for both the county and the cities, while also allowing each to have adequate resources to provide services to citizens. You know, my friend had asked the question, what do you intend to do with these funds? And this very generic response is what he received. He then again says, unfortunately, a few officials are spreading fear and misinformation, and this is what really gets my goat here. Rather than working towards an agreement, this is a negotiated process that is not about one side or the other winning or losing, but instead reaching an agreement about how lost proceeds should be spent in a way that achieves the aims I just noted and is consistent with state law. So, as noted, my focus remains on the taxpayer, and I'm hopeful that the parties will ultimately work towards a fair agreement beneficial to property taxpayers. So what he is saying is that all of you are not participating in the negotiation process, and you're not looking out for us. We can all see that that's not the case, but how do we combat this?
So you call them out and say it's disinformation, it's alternative facts, and we don't believe you. And then we put on the website the facts, so that you can be armed with them, so that you can know. The county's positions will cause charter amendments to have to happen in 4 cities. The county's last offer sought to divide and conquer us. So in that 7 to 9, up to 19% over 10 years, they said for the cities that would have need a charter amendment, that they will make us whole. So instead of amending our charter, basically we have to cap out, and then they give us the difference from their bucket. So remember the question about whether or not there's a line item about how they're going to spend their money? It's not.
They're going to give it back to you?
And in fact, they're willing to give it back to 4 cities, the oldest book in Willie Lynch, Divide and Conquer, right? And we're not going to be divided. So we have to do more on this website to be able to give you the facts, so that when you get the misinformation from them, so they're not following the law. So you can say, well, this is what the law says. What are you spending it on? And he'll be stuck, right? So you have to counter people like that with facts, and we need to help you with that. So we have time, really, I think, for 2 more. We had the young lady in the teal and the gentleman back there in the blue. We'll all be around. But the mayor leaned over to me, and I was able to get those last 2 hands in, and then we'll wrap up.
I don't know when the party bus is leaving, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Party can go all night.
Okay, all right.
We need more refreshments.
Good evening. Opal Baker from East Point. And I'm listening to everybody tonight, and I'm going to throw, I guess, a very simple question at what is undoubtedly a very complex issue, but I'm listening to all of your challenges with negotiation. And I'm wondering about options for essentially removing Fulton County from this equation, because I know it's probably not simple to do, but I mean, they've stated that, whatever they're getting is negligible to them, and notwithstanding 889 people, why can't we? Oh, somebody else mentioned something about possible legislative action. Why can't we take them out, essentially? And, if it's a function of, collecting revenue, well, let them do that, and then just split the money between the other 15 counties. 15 towns, cities. I don't understand how that can happen, if that can happen, and the timing for something like that to happen to be effective.
The timing, I'm sorry. Right now, we have to play within the rules that we have. And so the county says, the county has to be a participant in the agreement. The proposed legislation that essentially would create two separate local option sales taxes, one for incorporated and one for unincorporated, is something that would have to go to the legislature and pass. And so we would be out money because this agreement expires at the end of this year. So if it were taken up by the legislature in 2023, there would be a period of time where there would be no loss. And we'd have to see if that actually could pass the legislature. But I think it's a brilliant idea if we can't get this done, because when you really look at it, where is the revenue being generated, especially in this county? It's being generated in the city. It's not in that 1.62 square miles. And in regard to the facts that are being put out, I honestly hadn't really pored over the Fulton County fact sheet. But, I mean, there's a line in here that we all know from sitting here is just completely erroneous. That county revenue has reduced while its service obligation has stayed the same. But why? Why would your service obligation stay the same for 889 people? I mean, I love a good library book just as much as anybody else, but $20,000 a head, is that what you said, Mayor Paul? Yeah. The obligation has not remained the same, and we all know this because we live in the city. And that's a really strong point because that's the information that they're putting out there. But we know that's not true. So take the opportunity to reach out to all these good folks and let them know that you know that what they're putting out there is not factually correct.
And our last question.
Hi, my name is Mario Clark, and I represent South Fulton in District 7. I love the spirit of camaraderie that all the mayors have decided to coalesce together and come together. My question is actually, have you guys been able to compare notes in terms of the efficient delivery of municipal services so that you guys can, if you guys have wins on potential cost savings, that you can share them with the other cities?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it kind of resonates along the same thing that Karen, and I don't see Karen here tonight, but Mr. Corrigan is here, I believe. Is that Tim Corrigan right there? He sent us an email after the town hall last week about the fact that there are a number of issues outside of, in addition to lost, that we have commonality around. So Mayor Paul mentioned it's not party. At the local level, it's not Republican and Democrat. It's not any of those divisive things. It is how do we serve everybody. So public safety, infrastructure, clean water. And so this coming together and is having us think more about that and have conversations more about that, about how we continue this level of being united and working together and learning from each other, you know, around public safety and ambulance response time. North Fulton has a 6 to 8 minutes. South Fulton right now got about 4 hours with chest pain. That's the problem, right? So yes, we've been talking more about that because of this. Mayor or Kipling?
Well, I want to thank everyone again. As I said earlier, this is what civic participation looks like. And we just need to do it more often. I mean, again, thank you, Fulton County, for uniting these mayors. I hope the buses go back and forth more. You know, that you take buses from South Fulton up to the north side and more buses from the north side to the south side. Because it's that coming together, that they can't beat. And as long as we're apart, they've got us beat. So, again, I think everyone sitting here participating, you all deserve a hand. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you to the mayors. Please share this information. We can keep politicians honest by doing things like this. Thank you all.
Yep, they sure did.